Good afternoon, committee. Welcome. We will jump into the items that we have today. You do see final action on our daily agenda that we have, and we will take that on Senate Bill 86 related to the CAPERS change in the age for distributions of the 457 plan. We will do our hearing on 78, but I'll let you know a little of what I am thinking now. I had thought of amending the other two insurance bills into one bill and passing that out, so we pass out their content and leave one of the Senate bills here in committee. So that was the thought, and I think we will do that on Monday and leave 28 in the committee and pass 78 out with the content. Would be something I would suggest to the committee, and we'll take that action on Monday. So I'll go over that again when we get there. But we do have a hearing on Senate Bill 78. This may go similar to the hearings that we had on Monday in that we have heard the content before. But if our reviser would step in with an overview of Senate Bill 78, and I believe it's Reviser Weiss that is covering it for us today.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Senate Bill 78, this does update certain statutes relating to the regulation of the business of insurance. This is the Senate mirror version of HB 2136 that this committee did work last month with some amendments. The Senate Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance made similar amendments to those that were in HB 2136 with some minor differences. Section 1 of the bill, originally this was the section that granted the Commissioner of Insurance certain investigative powers, as well as the power to subpoena individuals and compel production of books, documents, and other records. The section was stricken when the committee worked the bill, and this was also stricken by this committee in 2136. So that section did come out in both versions of the bill. Currently, Section 1 is now KSA 40-201A, pertaining to the definition of service contract. Based on the concerns that were raised during the bill hearing, the bill was amended to specify that service contract does not include an automobile service contract. The committee amended Section 1 to strike the original language and amend the definition of service contract. However, the language that this committee used varies slightly from the Senate bill's language, and there is a comparison of the two definitions on the last page of the brief. That is really the only real substantive difference between Senate Bill 78 and 2136. Section 2 amends KSA 2020 sub 40-246I. Here, the minimum requirements for net worth, annual revenue, and annual budgeted expenditures. Exempt commercial purchaser must be adjusted every 5 years by rules and regulations. The bill strikes the requirement that the adjustment be accomplished by rules and regulations, and instead require that the adjusted amount be published every 5 years in the register. Section 3 amends KSA 40-4-104 pertaining to the minimum non-forfeiture amount used to calculate the minimum values of any paid-up annuity, cash surrender, or death benefits available under an annuity contract. Under current law, the interest rate used in determining the minimum non-forfeiture amounts is calculated at an annual rate determined as the lesser of 3% per annum, and the interest rate calculated as the 5-year constant maturity rate reported by the Federal Reserve as of a date or average over a period rounded to the nearest 1/20th of 1% specified in the contract no longer than 15 months prior to the annuity contract's issue date or redetermination date, reduced by 125 basis points, where the resulting interest rate is not less than 1%. The bill makes the change, the 1% interest rate to 0.15% or 15 basis points. Sections 4 through 6 amends the Utilization Review Organization Act. Section 4 removes the requirement of using the advice of the advisory committee and add healthcare providers to the type of utilization review activity subject to required rules and regulations establishing standards for conduct. Section 5 removes requirements establishing the Utilization Review Advisory Committee. Section 6 would specify provisions of the Utilization Review Organization Act would not apply to utilization review organizations accredited by adhering to National Utilization Review standards approved by UREC, an independent nonprofit accreditation entity, or other such utilization review organizations the commissioner would approve. Section 7 pertains to the requirements of risk retention. Groups chartered in foreign states must observe under current law. In Section B1, a risk retention group seeking to do business in the state must submit a copy of the group's financial statement submitted to its state of domicile that is certified by an independent public accountant. The bill would strike the requirement that the financial statement be certified by an independent public accountant. And Section 8 amends as KSA 44-1704 pertaining to the registration of professional employer organizations. Time frame for the submission of a registrant's renewal application would be extended from 60 to 120 days. Additionally, the time frame for the filing the most recent audit by the professional employer organization group would also be extended from 60 to 120 days. And then finally, the bill does repeal the Automobile Club Services Act. That's KSA 40-2501 through 2513. And that is then also, then with the repeal of that act, that is where we then draw from and have to put in that exception to the definition of service contract, to not to say it does not include Automobile Club Service Contract. And that is, that was done in 2136. It's being done here in in Senate Bill 78. With those little minor differences as to the definition there of what service contract does not include. With that, Mr. Chairman, I can stand for any questions.
Thank you. Committee questions? Representative Dodson.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear, Mr. Chair, who made these changes, but a couple of them seem fairly substantial. Number one was page 1, line 17, where it used to describe the powers of the insurance commissioner. And the other one is page 7 at the bottom, where it appears to remove the advisory committee. Are both of those somewhere else in KSA, so they don't have to be mentioned, or what was the thinking there?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the amendment to the to remove the advisory committee on starts on page 7. That was in the underlying bill in 78 and also in 2136. So that was part of the bill as introduced by the department. I think they could probably speak to the reasons why that committee would not be used, and that's why that language didn't struck. The language in what was on page 1, line 17, the original section 1, that was actually the committee amendment. Both this committee made that amendment to strike that section from the bill, and then the Senate committee made a similar amendment as well. That's not eliminating statute, and that's just eliminating that statute from this bill, so it's not going to be changed. So those investigative powers and other powers to subpoena would not, we would just remain current law.
Thank you. I just forgotten we did that.
If that answered your questions, are there any Representative Proctor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the revisor, it didn't come out clear to me. I apologize if I just didn't catch it, but what exactly are the differences between this bill and 2136?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I might have just kind of going through that. It is really, if you look at page 3 of the bill, and then if you have a copy of 2136, you can compare, but it's really it's the on Senate Bill 78, page 3, line 14 through the bottom of the page, and then up on the top of page 4, lines 2 through 1 and 2. That definition of what a service contract does not include. That's the difference. It's also, then you can see it on the back of the bill brief, kind of laid out side by side there. That's really the substantive difference between the two bills.
I'm looking at the 2136 that we passed out of this committee, and it has that service contract does not include language in it.
It does, but if you see on 2136, it's would be 5A, B, and or C. That's what came out of 2136, where versus 78 has some additional language there relating to, like, I think it's really the stuff at the bottom there on in 78 would the paragraph C, automobile service contract shall contain the following information. That is new. That is not include. That was not included in 2136. So that would be kind of the.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the questions. Any other questions? Mr. Revisor, I might follow up just briefly on Representative Proctor's question. The language that was in the Senate bill, was that just a difference in the original draft, or was there something that was changed in the committee?
That was the committee amendment there. I think they pulled, I mean, I think the difference is there's kind of two different pieces of that automobile club act that's being repealed under the bill. There's 2502, which provide the definition of automobile club. And then there was also part of what the service contracts would consist of. That would be that was originally under 402507. That sub C of that was got included into this as well. I'm not sure why it was different.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you. And just so you know, the department also is willing to weigh in to clarify on this, but Revisor Ma.
Hi, sorry, I was monitoring while the Senate committee or Senate body of the whole is in caucus, but the difference is actually with a little bit of time, all things like wine, time on a bill will improve the product sometimes. And the Senate bill, actually, the language for that definition was our first stab at it. And then a little bit later, because we heard the House bill later, we knew that definition would need to be amended again. So stakeholders and the department took another stab at defining and putting it together with concerns from a different stakeholder, and we used both definitions in order to give the committees a choice between the two definitions, and that's how you get both of them.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for the revisor? Seeing none, thank you for the overview. So, and once again, I think we would dispense with the fiscal note, if that's all right with the committee, and move into our proponent testimony, and welcome back to the committee, Lee Modisett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lee Modisett, Kansas Insurance Department. Revisor Weiss did a great job, as did Revisor Ma, covering the differences. I thought I would add just a little bit additional flavor as it relates to the automobile service club, or the automobile club service contract. It was two-part. Originally, the intent was to simply do away with registration and no longer require that. Earlier testimony provided reasons for that. We had some folks reach out to us, concerns that absence of definition, it may appear to be insurance. The Senate version, to Eileen's point, was the first crack at it. The House version, if the committee works this bill, we would ask the committee consider amending Senate Bill 78 to resemble the definition that was added in the House version. There is one single word of 2136 that we would like to add from that definition. It was an oversight on our part. On page 3, line 14, it says service contract does not include an automobile service contract. But on line 15, it says automobile club service contract. After we had everybody agree on a definition, we had a new entity reach out to us and say, hey, we'd really like to make it consistent that it's automobile club service contract throughout. So we would ask that on line 14, between the word automobile and service, the word club be added to remain consistent with 15. And then Representative Dotson, just as a refresher, because it does feel like it's been a long time since we've looked at this bill. The first section was related to our subpoena authority and administrative subpoena. We wanted more time to work on that with stakeholders who had some questions, concerns, wanted to work with them between sessions. And then the repeal of the utilization review, that committee hasn't met, I believe, since 2015. And so it was one of those, that's being filled now by URAC. And so that's why we were striking that from statute, just for refresher purposes, because it has been a while. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you for the overview. Would you go through that again? I was trying to follow on Senate Bill 78, correct?
So,
Page 3, line.
oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I was referencing the definition from 2136.
Okay.
Yep. So the primary difference here on 78 is that starting around line 36, it kind of lists some of the components that should be in a service contract. And one of the questions we received was, there's not an issue with including this, but who's actually going to make sure this is being included if the entire, purpose is to no longer require the registration? So we kind of worked on that, and that's how we got to the language in 2136. That when you're striking all of this, you still have to have a definition, and it's the statute kind of how it's constructed is a little unique to try to get a definition put in there. So that's how we arrived at 2136, which is on page 3 of that bill, starting on line 14.
Thank you. So I think I see that club was actually in the Senate version.
Right.
That particular line, we just needed to add that into the House version to have the most updated.
Correct, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Representative Bishop.
And for the mute button, which is the exact wrong thing to do. I have a question for Mr. Modisett. I think you might recall a conversation we had back in the summer. Does this process that we're talking about here change anything relative to the Insurance Commission or the Attorney General's office? Because now I can't remember which way it came out, on something like Car Shield that advertises so much on TV?
No, this doesn't have anything to do with kind of those the warranties, the auto warranties or the appliance warranties, things that we talked about through the summer. This is kind of a common example. Probably the most known auto club would be AAA. So that's what we're talking about here. The AAA, the insurance company, would still be an insurance company fully regulated, but their club portion and right now, all that they're required to do is register with us. So that would no longer be a requirement.
I think as that conversation came out, it was the fact that it was the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office that really has oversight, like something under the warranty. There's the House Shield and Car Shield and so forth. And I will just report to the committee that I inquired of the Attorney General's office and got a very nice report on their complaint experience and settlements and so forth. Not much there, so I was relieved that I didn't have to delve into that any further. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, committee? So thank you for the overview and the chance to get an idea. This is the comfrey that we have, committee, so if you have your questions answered, and I know it was just a little muddy to come up with exactly what was happening between the two versions, but if we're good on that, we'll release our comfrey, and thank you for presenting to the committee. So is there anyone else wishing to appear as a proponent on Senate Bill 78? Anyone as an opponent? Anyone neutral or anyone else at all on Senate Bill 78? Hearing none, we will close the hearing. So thanks again, committee. Again, I think we'll just make sure that we have that as neat as possible and look at working those bills together on Monday. I would be interested in the committee's wishes on Senate Bill 86 as it refers to capers. As we get to that, I might begin by asking, while we just heard it on Monday, if the reviser would give us a brief overview of Senate Bill 86.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Senate Bill 86, this is the bill that would change the kind of the IRS guidepost section in the Capers Act, 7449 123. This would kind of conform our state law with the new Internal Revenue Code provisions that were passed by Congress relating to the minimum distribution age under for the Capers 457, or the defined deferred contribution plan. So the federal law changed it to, from 70 and a half for the required minimum distribution age to age 72, or 70 and a half if the member was born before July 1, 1949. So the federal law changed. This is just changing state law to make sure we conform with the current Internal Revenue Code.
So thank you. Committee, does anyone have any questions as it relates to Senate Bill 86? So I have some thoughts as we move into this, and only because I do greatly enjoy Director Conroy's presence. I would like to consider an amendment to this so that he not only gets to be at this meeting, but at subsequent conference committee meetings. And it would be to change the enactment date is the concept on that. Reviser Weiss, would you have an amendment that is prepared relative to that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've emailed that to Jan just now, but I can also just share. It's a pretty straightforward amendment. It would really just be at the very end of the bill, page 11, section 3 there, the effective date, strike statute book, and then change that to Kansas Register to, move up that effective date.
Let's do.
So yeah, just changing statute book to register.
So thank you for sharing that as an amendment that has been drafted. If I've made any sense to the committee, I wanted to share that much. I would ask the committee's wishes as it relates to the bill. And I might start with Representative Croft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment to this bill. And it's a technical amendment, so.
And is it the one that was just distributed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
On the
Yes.
date?
Right.
Great. So that has been distributed. Would you care to start us with that concept to move that amendment?
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Chair, I move that the committee pass favorably Senate Bill 86.
So, and I may back up.
Sorry,
and
I
you
started there.
You may.
Right.
You can do that as well. Let's start with that. That's the House route to do it. You're doing it right. So we have a motion to pass 86 favorably. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Neighbor. Discussion on Senate Bill 86. Representative Croft, do you have an amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have an amendment.
Great.
And it's about the date. It was already been passed out. Sorry.
Seconded by Representative Riley. So a motion to amend, I believe, and sorry, I kind of confused the process by telling folks what I was thinking in general, but thank you for helping me through the process. So the motion to amend by changing the enactment date from the statute book to the register, I believe, is the direction that change went. Thank you for being willing to offer that. Thank you to the second. Discussion on the amendment. Representative Dodson.
I'm trying to recall the discussion last time, but it had to do with the 72 versus the 70 and a half, and you said by the time this goes, everybody will be 72. Is that what addresses, is that what the 17 March date does?
So in terms of the March date versus the July date of when it, or let me make sure I know which 17 you're asking. Are you referring to one that's?
March 17th, 2021.
Okay. So that in the bill would not be addressed by the amendment, if I have that right. That's just part of the bill that's part of lining up the 457 plan with the rules that the IRS had.
Okay.
So thank you. The amendment merely changes one element in the process of the bill to say that rather than enacting it in July of the statute book, it would be enacted in the register. I might expect that the Senate will not like that and it'll change back, but making that change without changing a substantive part of the bill would send it to conference rather than straight to the governor. And I wanted to hang on to the vehicle. So that's why I'm putting you through the exercise of the technical amendment and trying to confuse everybody as much as possible. So, and thankfully I'm achieving that second objective well. So, but discussion on the amendment, which is the change in the enactment date without changing the content of the bill. Other concerns that anyone has or questions? If there are no concerns on that, Representative, you may close on the amendment.
I close.
You've heard the motion by Representative Croft to amend Senate Bill 86. All of those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. So now we are back on the bill, looking at Senate Bill 86 as amended. Representative Croft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee recommend Senate Bill 86 as amended favorably for passage.
Thank you. Seconded by Representative Neighbor. Discussion on the motion to pass favorable. Seeing none, Representative, you may close.
I close.
Heard the motion by Representative Croft to pass Senate Bill 86 favorably as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. Thank you, committee. I appreciate that. On Monday, we will take up similar activities on the other Senate bills and move them through. Also, I'm currently planning on working House Bill 2380 on Monday. And we will have at least one hearing, maybe some of our other hearings, just to have some information shared about other topics that were entered as bills into the committee. So with that, committee, we are adjourned.